This Sunday, the Gospel reading is from Luke chapter 9, verses 28 to 36. It's the Transfiguration of Christ. And so I'm doing the Christ candle. This is one of the Sundays that we light the Christ candle. He's our light, and certainly our life, the gospel, forgiveness, grace, and certainly the Word. It reads, "Now about 8 days after these sayings," and the sayings when Jesus predicts his death and suffering, "Jesus took with him Peter, John, and James, and went up on the mountain to pray. And while he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly they saw two men, Moses and Elijah, talking to him. They appeared in glory and were speaking of his departure, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. Now Peter and his companions were weighed down with sleep, but since they had stayed awake, they saw his glory and the two men who stood with him." Well, let's stop there and go over this a little bit, because it's kind of interesting about what some of the meanings are here. Again, 8 days after Jesus predicts his suffering and death, he takes Peter, James, and John, and they go up on the mountain to pray. And then his appearance becomes dazzling white. It's a glimpse of his glory. That's why we have white this Sunday, Transfiguration Sunday, for the altar paraments. And the next time we bring out white, it will be Easter. And then after this Sunday, Transfiguration Sunday, we go to Lent. And that ties into the fact that he was speaking with Moses and Elijah about his departure that he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. His departure from this life. His departure going into the realm of death and resurrection that he was going to accomplish at Jerusalem. It's also interesting, the parallels of the Garden of Gethsemane, because in verse 32, Peter and his companions are weighed down with sleep, but this time they stayed awake and they saw his glory and the two men who stood with him. And now the scripture continues, and just as they were leaving him, this would have been Elijah and Moses. Just as they were leaving him, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it's good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, or 3 shrines, or 3 booths, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah," not knowing what he said. And while he was saying this, a cloud came and overshadowed them. Again, just like the cloud that came and overshadowed Moses on Mount Sinai. God's holiness, it was veiled in grace because it was so powerful the people could not take it. So here we have God coming, and the cloud protects us. In this case, Peter, James, and John. So as he's saying that, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were terrified as they entered the cloud. Not that long ago, I was caught in a blizzard. And let me tell you what, if all of a sudden you're in a whiteout like a cloud and you can't see anything, it is scary. It's frightening. And that's exactly what's happening here. They were terrified as they entered the cloud, and then from the cloud came a voice. Remember when Jesus was baptized, there was a voice. "This is my son. With him I am well pleased." Now in the cloud, we hear the voice of God, and it says, "This is my son, my chosen," which would be chosen to be the Messiah. "Listen to him." And that's commanded. It's not a request. When the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone. And they, Peter, James, and John, kept silent, and in those days told no one anything of the things they had seen. This Sunday is a glimpse of doxa in the Greek. Doxology, we get that word. Doxa means glory. And our glory is Christ. Christ is the light of the world. And as we enter into his presence, we do so with faith and grace and respect. What we would say call holy fear. So this particular Sunday, we get a glimpse of who Jesus really is, and that's Epiphany, God revealing who God is. And then we get this glimpse of glory, and then Wednesday is Ash Wednesday. We have 2 more days of Epiphany, Monday and Tuesday, and like if we were down in Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday, and the reason, of course, was so that you kind of gorge yourself and then start fasting for the 40 days of Lent. It's also more appropriate to say that it's a Tuesday of great prayer, preparing as we follow the Lord to his passion, his resurrection, and the greatest glory of all, which is right next to the candle, the cross. Enjoy the view.